Alright, let me start with a punch. In this jungle of SUVs popping up like mushrooms after rain, which brand new kid just grabbed a full 5-star safety rating and showed up with level 2 ADAS? Yep, it's this one, the Suzuki Victoris. Sounds like a scam name, but trust me, it's gunning straight at the Hyundai Creta and Kia Seltos, the heavyweights of the segment. First impression? Victoris is the first Suzuki sold through the Arena network that dares to bring the full toolbox, ADAS, multiple hybrid options, even a neatly tucked away CNG tank under the trunk. Forget those old budget filler cars Suzuki used to send out. This time, they are rolling in like a heavyweight fighter. That 5-star Bharat NCAP rating isn't just a wall decoration. It's a promise that this car can actually take a hit without shattering like a cheap plate. Family drivers are already nodding in approval. And level 2 ADAS? Let's be honest, in bumper-to-bumper traffic, having a car that brakes and keeps lane by itself is like hiring a personal assistant. One that doesn't complain, doesn't whine, just follows orders. Picture this, you chilling with Dolby Atmos music, coffee in hand, and the car takes care of the boring distance-keeping stuff. As long as you stay awake, it does the heavy lifting. That sounds way better than juggling a clutch and gears all day, right? But here's the kicker, Suzuki is betting big. Victoris is their opening move to cover over 100 markets worldwide. If this works, it could be the first brick in what I'd call the rich Suzuki wall. And honestly, looking at the spec sheet, I can't just call this a cheap car with fancy features for fun anymore. This one's serious. Anyway, that's enough of an opener. Now I wanna throw the ball to you guys. Which one's the real deal breaker for you? 5-star safety or ADAS tech? Drop your answers in the comments. Let's see if this community values safety or gadgets more. And if anyone still complains this car has too few features, well, they're probably sitting in a spaceship already.
Alright, let's take a good look at the front face of the Victoris. What do you guys think? Big blacked out grille, like it just walked out of the gym, and those LED strips running across the nose, they look like neon lights straight out of a late night diner sign. Now, I know what you're thinking. So what? Every SUV these days flexes a big grille. True, but here's the twist. Suzuki has never dared to go full stone-cold stare like this on one of their Arena models before. Size-wise, it stretches just over 4.3 meters long and about 1.8 meters wide. Translation, it's not a tiny hatchback that feels like driving a Bluetooth speaker on wheels, but it's also not a people mover for an entire football team. It's right in the sweet spot. Easy enough for the city, but confident enough to cruise highways. And hey, anyone here ever backed into a parking garage so tight your mirrors nearly kiss the concrete pillars? With these proportions, the Victoris promises fewer heart drops to your stomach moments. From the side, you'll spot sharp body lines. Suzuki isn't shy. They want it to look muscular enough to square up with the Creta. Those turbine-style alloy wheels? You'll either love them at first sight or say they look like industrial air vents. Personally, I think it works. When the body's all angular, the wheels better bring some attitude too. Swing to the back and you'll notice the LED strip theme repeats itself. Remember how I said the front looked like neon diner lights? Yeah, Suzuki went copy-paste for the rear. At night, you might mistake it for a Vegas billboard from a distance. But honestly, that's what keeps the Victoris from blending into the sea of copy-paste SUVs out there. Now, let me ask you straight. At first glance, does the Victoris have enough presence to make you proudly show it off to the neighbors? Or does it look like a facelift of somebody else's SUV? Drop it in the comments, because let's be real, every neighborhood loves gossiping about whether a new car looks hot or not. Victoris may not be a movie star, but clearly, it knows how to pick the right hairstyle for the spotlight. Now let's talk size and platform, because that's where you figure out how this SUV really lives. The Victoris measures 4,360 millimeters long, 1,795 millimeters wide, 1,655 millimeters tall, with a 2,600 millimeter wheelbase. In plain English, it's not a monster SUV that blocks everyone's driveway, but it's also not a toy car where rear passengers hit their heads on the ceiling. It sits right in the middle, comfortable enough for the family, but not a nightmare when you're U-turning in the city. Anyone who's ever tried squeezing a big minivan into an underground parking lot knows that feeling. You back up and suddenly you're whispering prayers. With the Victoris, at least you keep your cool long enough to adjust the mirrors. Weight? About 1.2 tons. Not too heavy to drain the engine, not so light that a crosswind sends you into the next lane. Underneath, it shares its platform with the Grand Vitara, so this chassis already has some battle scars. Suspension setup? McPherson struts up front, torsion beam in the rear. Basic, yes, but here's the upside. Cheap to fix, easy to maintain. The downside? If you expect this to glide over potholes like an S-Class, wake up. That rear caution beam will remind you very quickly that this is still a budget-friendly SUV. Ground clearance? 210 millimeters. And that's the golden number. Translation, when monsoon season hits Bangkok or Manila, or when you're hopping curbs in Kuala Lumpur, your shoes stay dry. But don't get any wild ideas about rock crawling like a pickup truck. This is still an urban SUV, not a construction worker. One detail I genuinely like: turning radius, about 5.4 meters. Picture yourself stuck in a narrow alley with scooters buzzing around. Being able to whip a clean turn feels like a blessing. Suzuki gave the Victoris just the right amount of agility, something most brands ignore while chasing bigger is better numbers. So, what do you guys think? With these specs, is the Victoris a legit urban family car, or just another face in the SUV crowd? Drop it in the comments, because I want to know how many of you actually care about turning radius, a detail most dealerships never even bother mentioning. The Victoris won't make you king of the road, but it will make sure you're not crowned the god of traffic jams in the condo parking garage.
Engines. That's what everyone's waiting for. Because whenever someone hears new SUV, the first question is, does it actually have muscle, or is it just as strong as a garden water pump? The Victoris comes with a 1.5-liter K15C gasoline engine, naturally aspirated, 4 cylinders in a row. It makes 102 horsepower and 135 newton-meters of torque. I know, those numbers won't knock you out. Honestly, some big motorcycles put out scarier stats. But remember, this isn't a drag racer for quarter-mile glory. This is a family SUV, not a burnout machine. The good part? This 1.5 engine is already a household name in Suzuki's lineup. You've seen it in the Ertiga, the XL7, even the Grand Vitara. It's not flashy, it's a farmhand. Built to work, built to last. Pros? Reliable, easy to fix, fuel efficient. Cons? Acceleration that feels like you might need a cup of coffee before overtaking. Some markets even get a 12-volt mild hybrid. Don't imagine a high-tech plug-in rocket ship. It's mere like having a friend in the passenger seat who occasionally leans forward and gives the car a push uphill. Not much, but hey, it helps. Transmission, 2 choices: a 5-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic with manual mode. And here's where it gets interesting. In the era where CVTs are everywhere, Suzuki sticks with a good old 6AT. The plus side? Real gear shifts, solid durability, none of that rubber band whining sound CVTs make. The minus? Not as buttery smooth in city crawling. But at least when you pass someone, you actually hear the car change gears, like it's doing the job properly. Drivetrain? Mostly front-wheel drive, but in some regions you get AWD with Suzuki's all-grip tech. That's a big plus, because not every compact SUV lets you poke your nose onto rougher roads. Of course, don't expect Jeep Wrangler levels of off-road. Think of it more like wearing trekking shoes for a weekend hike, not combat boots for a military job. So here's the question. While most brands are chasing bigger horsepower numbers, Suzuki plays the just enough card. Is that smart restraint, or is it Suzuki refusing to give you any excitement? Drop your thoughts below. Let's see how many of you prefer enough over extra to brag about. The Victoris engine won't make you scream with excitement, but at least it won't make your wallet scream every time you stop at the gas station.
Now let's talk interior, the place where people actually live with their car, not just peek at it from the sidewalk. Step inside the Victoris, and first impression, Suzuki finally decided to sprinkle in a bit of class. You get a floating 9-inch touchscreen on higher trims with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Sounds standard these days, but hey, if you remember the Ertiga making you dangle a charging cable like an old Nokia power cord, this feels downright civilized. Behind the wheel, still good old analog gauges with a 4.2-inch MID screen. And honestly, analog in 2025 feels a little like wearing a wristwatch with actual hands. Out of fashion? Maybe. But durable, easy to read, less likely to glitch. If you're into flashy, glowing dashboards like the Koreans and Chinese love, you might yawn. But if you prefer clear and simple, you'll actually like this throwback. Seats? Mostly manual adjustment, with power seat only on the top trim. Upholstery is a mix of leather and fabric, not full leather. So no, this isn't a spa chair with massage and ventilation. Think more like a decent barber's chair. But comfort is solid, space is generous, and rear passengers actually get AC vents and USB charging ports. That's a win, because some rivals treat the back seat like sit there and be quiet. Space-wise, the wheelbase is 2,600 millimeters, same as the Grand Vitara, good enough for a family of 5 to road trip comfortably. Cargo? 366 liters. Not as cavernous as a CR-V or Tucson, but still enough for 3 suitcases and a stack of groceries, or instant noodles, depending on your lifestyle. Other features? Push-button start, automatic climate control, a panoramic sunroof on higher trims, and a 4 to 6 speaker sound system depending on the version. Suzuki isn't going wild here, but they clearly aimed for everything you need, nothing you desperately miss. The funny part is how Suzuki chooses where to cut corners. Instead of giving you a massive 12-inch tablet screen but rock-hard back seats, they flip it. Modest screen, comfy seating, and cool air in the back. Honestly, that's smart because you sit in your seat way more than you stare at your dash. So here's a question for you. Would you rather have a giant laptop-sized screen with back seats that feel like cafeteria chairs, or a smaller screen but soft seats and cool air in the back? Comment below. I guarantee this one splits opinions. And yes, there will be that one guy who says, I only care if the speakers play country music clearly. The Victoris interior won't make you scream wow like a NASA control room, but at least it doesn't feel like detention in a middle school classroom. Safety tech. The part where most car makers love to throw in a dozen acronyms that sound like your neighbor's Wi-Fi password. With the Victoris, Suzuki keeps it simple. Not bare bones, not overkill, just the basics. You get the usual suspects: ABS, EBD, brake assist, stability control, traction control, and hill start assist. 2 airbags standard, 6 if you spring for the higher trims. Sound familiar? Yep, classic affordable SUV starter pack. Gives you the basic idiot-proofing kit. Anything fancier costs extra. Now the perks. The top trim adds a 360-degree camera, parking sensors front and rear, and a tire pressure monitoring system. If you live in the city, that's gold. No more sticking your head out like a giraffe to check if you're kissing the curb. And fewer mornings spent wondering why your rim looks like it lost a bar fight because your tire's been flat since yesterday. What you don't get, and what many people now expect, is a fancy ADAS suite. No automatic emergency braking, no adaptive cruise. Why? Probably because Suzuki wants to leave those goodies for the bigger, pricier Grand Vitara. So if you were dreaming of sipping bubble tea while the car drives itself, sorry, reality check. But here's the thing, don't underestimate it. For its price bracket, Suzuki still nails the essentials. And that heart-tech platform, yes, it sounds like a heart supplement you'd buy at a pharmacy, is actually a solid frame, proven to handle impacts and keep passengers safe. Suzuki doesn't scream about it in ads, but their chassis engineering record is pretty respectable. Notice how every brand now gives their platforms names that sound like miracle cures. Toyota's TNGA, VW's MQB, Renault's CMF. Suzuki, heart-tech. Sure, it sounds like medication for your uncle's blood pressure, but if it keeps your heart beating after a crash, who cares? So here's my question to you. Would you take a car that skips the full ADAS circus, but gives you a tough chassis, cheaper repairs, and a friendlier price tag? Or do you side with the paper-safe crowd? Cars that brag about 20 safety acronyms, but cost a fortune to fix if you so much as sneeze on the bumper. Drop your vote in the comments. Team built tough or team tech overload? The Victoris isn't the kind of car that hugs you with 12 smart airbags. It's the kind that hands you a decent suit of armor and says, okay, champ, handle the rest. Price and rivals, the part everyone waits for. The yeah, sounds good, but how much moment. In India, the Suzuki Victoris kicks off around 10 to 16 lakh rupees. That's roughly 12 to 19 grand in US dollars. By the time it reaches Southeast Asia, you can bet the sticker creeps higher. Still, it's playing in the budget-friendly family SUV zone, the car for people who aren't rich yet but are already tired of sedans. Direct competition, Hyundai Creta, Kia Seltos, Honda HR-V, Toyota Yaris Cross, that's basically the Avengers of small SUVs. Suzuki's strategy here? Go in softer, affordable price, decent kit, no flashy gimmicks. The question is that enough to steal attention in a market already flooded with fan favorites? Suzuki does have its edge, reputation for durability and low running costs. In price-sensitive regions, that matters a lot. But the weak spots are clear too. No ADAS, a modest engine, and an interior that won't exactly break Instagram. And honestly, if you look at Suzuki's history, this is their style. Always half a step behind on tech and horsepower, but solid on practicality. It's like that kid in class who never tops the exam rankings, but somehow never fails the test either. Now, imagine if it lands in a place like Indonesia, Thailand, or the Philippines. The game will come down to how Suzuki sets the price. If they go aggressive, Victoris could be the sweet spot second car, family hauler, city-friendly, and wallet safe. But if they push too high, sorry, folks will just slide over to a used CR-V, a Tucson, or whatever's sitting on the next lot. Think of it this way. In the Miss Small SUV pageant, the Victoris probably won't win the crown, but it could very well bag the Miss Congeniality award. And sometimes that's the contestant the crowd actually votes for. The price of the Victoris won't make you dream of being a billionaire, but at least it won't force you to skip coffee for a month just to make the payments.